So much, everyone. And also, thank you for making the time to join us today for the talk. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say stressed about it, the nervousness of the talk, but because of time and because of the desire to make it more a living room, like chat with you, I have no presentation, no slides, nothing. You just see my face, my gesturing. But I will share one of my biggest passions, that is sound healing, Nidra. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about what is sound healing, what are brain waves, why Yoga Nidra, and why I paired Yoga Nidra with sound healing. So one of the most important things to start talking about, and you'll see me looking down because I've got my notes, which I'm super happy to share with you because I put together my Yoga Nidra teacher training, my sound healing teacher training in this Word doc that I'm going to use to have my pointers. And if you're interested and super excited about it, it's like condensing two teacher trainings in one doc that I have here. So let me know if you want it. But what are the brain waves? Our brain is always active. We never stop. And the way that the brain communicates and works is through these electrical impulses. These electrical impulses, they form patterns that are called brain waves. And they change depending on what we do or how we feel. So there are many states or many waves or type of waves. We have the first one that is called gamma, and the frequency goes between 32 to 48 hertz. And we can relate it to the heavy processing, the deep focus of information, the high cognitive functions of your thinking. For example, you're trying to think about a riddle and you're trying to really get to the solution. That is the type of, you're into the gamma state. And then we have beta. And in terms of frequency, we are between 13 and 32 hertz. And the beta waves are very dominant when we are alert and we're stressed. So it represents stress, busy mind, active conversations, active thinking, decision making, problem solving. It's still a very active type of state. If you're in a meeting and you're not loving it, you'll know you are in a beta type of brainwave. And then we have alpha. In alpha, we are between 8 and 12 hertz, and the alpha brainwaves appear when we are more relaxed. Maybe when you're daydreaming, you're closing your eyes, and you're into those relaxed states. So you're meditating, or you're focused, but you enjoy what you're focused about. Is that creativity, thinking? Maybe you're walking, or yoga. Maybe you're doing yoga, and you are into these beautiful alpha waves. And then we get to theta. And here we start getting into the ideal brainwaves when you want to relax, when you're practicing Nidra, when you're doing a sound healing. Theta is that deep meditation, is the talking about sleep patterns. This is a REM state, the cognitive restoration. We are relaxing, we're dreaming, and you're in between awake and sleep. So this is when you're doing a sound healing session, this is where we'd like you to get. And then we have delta. Delta, it's probably the slowest of the brainwaves, is between 0.13 and 5 hertz, and is in deep sleep. Here, your body is restoring, so the body is healing itself, and it's a very unconscious healing. You're not really aware of your body, and your subconsciousness is most active. And here we get into the Yoga Nidra realm, because when we start with Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra means yogic sleep, but it doesn't mean sleeping. It means a guided way of relaxation. It's a systematic practice of voice, breath, of rotational awareness. And slowly, while you're still awake, you get into that theta and delta. Hopefully you stay into theta because delta means that you're probably snoring and sleeping. So you're still there, but you are into that type of bracket of brain waves. And there is also some science that backs the Yoga Nidra. They did some electroencephalograms, and they showed that during Yoga Nidra, your brain waves drops from alpha into theta. So we know, scientifically proven, is one of those things, because when we get into sound healing, there is some spiritual part. You have to believe in it. With Yoga Nidra, we know that you get into theta. If you follow it with practice, you get there. So in the deeper practices, you can also get into delta waves. And it's similar to your non-REM kind of deep sleep, non-REM sleep patterns. So this means that Yoga Nidra is a very powerful tool to fight insomnia, burnout, anxiety, and to help your nervous system to recover. My teacher said that 1 hour of Yoga Nidra is often put in parallel to 4 hours of deep sleep. So 1 hour of Yoga Nidra practice is 4 hours of deep sleep. In the 90s, it was also very popular to into these like corporate environments as a power nap. You would do 10 minutes of Yoga Nidra to try to come back. But again, talking about the deep sleep, we are not falling asleep. We're just entering into this conscious state of deep rest. And we use guided voice, rotation of consciousness. So I would guide you into thinking about parts of the body, your head, nose, the jaws, hands, finger by finger, each part of the body. And I will ask you to think about that specific part so that you are aware, you feel it, and you will imagine, you'll see with your internal eyes the body as you are releasing onto the mat. And then we are setting in Yoga Nidra an intention that is called Sankalpa. And this is a very powerful tool because, as I said before, you get into the subconscious states. So when you're setting that intention, sometimes, for example, I won't procrastinate. I'll be more patient with myself. And because we are getting into the deeper states where we talked about before, your elaboration of the information, your cognitive rest, you hope to carry that sankalpa deeper into the subconscious. So that is quite fascinating. And in my book of Yoga Nidra, one thing that was mentioned was learning about languages, for example, putting headphones and listen to a lesson of a language, trying to use that as a sankalpa. I haven't tried that. I just tried with smaller things about mindfulness. And it's something that you could try, for example, before falling asleep, repeating 3 times your sankalpa. Then, continuing, this unique state gives your nervous system a break and allows your subconscious integration with your sankalpa. And then here comes the sound. And that's why I love practicing Yoga Nidra. And then I start playing sound waves with Tibetan bowls. And if you think about everything in the universe is a vibration, including us. And there are instruments like the Tibetan bowls that emits binaural beats. And this emits frequencies that affect our brainwaves, as we mentioned before. So this emittance, let's say, is called entrainment. And it's a very important word because it makes the whole science behind sound healing, brain waves, and vibration. When a stronger vibration body influences a weaker one, it means that when we expose our brain to certain rhythms and frequencies, the brain syncs with it, or it tends to sync with it. So if we combine Yoga Nidra with a specific sounds, the effects get deeper. So we're guiding the brain gently and naturally into a more regenerative state. The studies are beginning to show how this supports people with insomnia, post-traumatic disorders, anxiety, and even burnout. And I have some studies, and if you want, I can send them to you so you can have a read through all the studies, which is always very exciting to see the science behind these practices. And so, yeah, Yoga Nidra and sound healing ideally will guide the body from beta toward alpha, theta, and even delta. So, Tibetan bowls. I use 7 bowls and I tend to align them or associate them with chakras. We start from the roots all the way up to your crown chakra. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And each bowl is associated to a note, and each note is associated with a center of energy of the body. We start, for example, the frequencies from 396 hertz all the way to 963. And if you're interested, I can send you each frequency. I would start saying notes and frequencies, and you won't remember, but for each bowl, there is a specific frequency. And these can directly influence your brain and the nervous system with entrainment and quantum entanglement. And here is where science starts to fade a little bit, and we get into manifestation and spirituality. Because Let's explain first what is quantum entanglement. And here I'm reading. So quantum entanglement is a phenomenon in quantum physics where a pair of groups or a pair of groups of particles, they became interconnected. So they are so interconnected that they start sharing a state. And you cannot have or describe one group or a particle without the other. So they cannot have an independent state from each other. This correlation suggests a deeper level of interconnectedness at a quantum level. Even if you're not close into the space, you can create a connection. Some healers draw a parallel between the quantum entanglement and experiences and what a patient experiences with sound healing. These experiences that can get facilitated by Tibetan bowls because is it a stronger vibrational body and we're trying to send a specific frequency or a specific state of mind, and we use the quantum entanglement and entrainment to get the brain into a specific stage. Also because the theory says that all the beings in the universe are connected. Here it comes back the spiritual part. The idea is that the energy can be transferred between an entangled particle and is compared to the belief that the sound vibration can influence the body energy, promoting healing. When I strike or circle a ball, it doesn't make just a single tone. It creates a harmonic layer of frequencies, and those naturally vibrate into the space around you. And that impacts the body. It can be through, in theory, virtually. We could be here on a screen. You could, through quantum entanglement, get anyway the benefit. Or even stronger, physically, you could be here. I could place the ball on your chest. I could place the ball on a floor, and you would receive directly the vibrations of the ball. The balls create mono narrow beats. What are these? These are two slightly different tones that are played into the same space, and they create a wave-like rhythm that our brains picks up. And these are real physical sound waves. That's why they impact the body. They're not like when sometimes you go to soundscapes and they give you the headphones. Those are called binaural, so bi. So these are mononaural. These are real vibrations. I'm trying not to repeat myself. Why all of these matter? It matters because the sound affects us emotionally and mentally, also physically. So these vibrations move through the bones, which conducts the vibration 5 times better than air, the muscle tissue, and even fascia. This is why people often say that they feel the balls into the chest, into their belly, into their hands. Each frequencies and the brainwaves, they're correlated. And I can send you, I have a little table. But for example, the sea ball is your Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, and that has that grounding effect. So if someone is very anxious or active, or the Muladhara is imbalanced, you would play the sea ball. And then we have D, that is your sacral chakra, and it's again very grounding and affects the Theta brainwave. E is your solar plexus and affects your Theta. It gets into Theta and Alpha. F is your heart and it's Alpha, so it calms you. And then we have G, throat, and it gives you clarity. It brings you towards the Alpha brainwaves. A is your third eye and it's insight, and it's your Alpha slash Theta brainwaves. And B, crown, it's your awareness and brings back again into Theta. Sometimes, for example, you could do a whole session with just 3 bows, with C, with B, and with E, with these 3 bows. And you could get a whole healing, let's say, getting the brain going into Theta and your Alpha states. So we play rhythmically and gently, and we layer these bows. And we try, with the layering of the sound, to help the nervous system shift out of the stress mode into your deep calm. I already touched on why I pair this with Yoga Nidra, is because this bowl, it creates a physical and sonic awareness. So you feel it into the body. With Yoga Nidra, we help the mind and the breath. You can imagine that everything, we go into the physical, the mental, the emotional, and also the neurological. Everything together, we go into 360 healing, body-mind connection, 100%. With Yoga Nidra, we guide the practice, we lead the practitioner from your conscious state to this kind of awake sleep, but into relaxation. And then I have some notes about autonomic nervous system, but you're all yogis, so you know what the autonomic system is. And in short, we try to get the body from your fight and flight to rest and digest. And when we are into this rest and digest, we allow the body to rest, to heal, and to regulate naturally. One of the most important things is that we're trying to create a new memory into the brain, learning, relearning if the body and the brain forgets, relearning how to reset, how to calm, how to relax in a conscious way. Remember, Yoga Nidra, we guide the minds inward, and with the sound, if the mind is not able to disconnect, we bypass it and we go through the grounding of the body. And yeah, my invitation here is to try it soon. If you are ever in London, we can organize a session, 30 minutes, even though it would be ideal 1 hour. So we can do half an hour Yoga Nidra, and then we shift through sound healing. I hope that it was interesting, and let me know if you have questions.
That was so interesting. Thank you for so much. That was so interesting. We have a question from Flavia. How are the vibrations different in the crystal bowls? Are the Tibetan ones considered better?
No, they're just different frequencies. Tibetan bowls are lower. So it's just in terms of amplitude and frequencies of the type of the wave. The Tibetan bowls create a more deeper wom, wom, wom. The crystal are just high pitched, higher. I would say that if you're just doing a sound bath, it's more popular to go with crystal bowls and then gongs. In sound healing, especially if you have someone that is already into the fight or flight, they're really very stressed. The high pitched, the higher notes of the crystal bowls, sometimes they might trigger a little bit because they're more, you might be more sensitive in terms of hearing. Tibetan bowls are just a safer option if you're, especially if you're doing sound healing. But both together, you have a whole spectrum. You're just amplifying the type of waves, the type of frequencies that you're using. They're just also more delicate to carry around, literally. But no, it's just different frequencies.
So I've had three Tibetan bowls for 10 years, and I will admit openly to the group that I've just been donging and wronging them willy-nilly with no formal like training in actually how they work, but they sound nice.
I
So
hope.
I've got like I know I've got a heart chakra bowl. So now I understand a little bit better how we can relate the bowls to the notes, which relate to the frequencies, which relate to the chakras. And we can think about our knowledge about
Yeah.
grounding, Muladhara, and that. But is it better for me to do more formal training than if I want to continue just like donging my bowls in a regular class? Because I have to be sensitive then to what kind of like energy that's going to bring up for people.
That's a really beautiful question and was a part that I decided to leave out of the talk. That is the role of the healer. Maybe if you decide to expand your collection of bowls, then yes, so that you can understand how to layer all of them. But you have three and use all the three of them. And here comes your energy and the intention that you send into the bowls and into the session. When I was doing my sound healing training, there was this other student that shared her experience. I'll just tell you this. She went to do a session and the heater was late. She rushed into the studio. She quickly tried to set up everything and she shared that she had some family problems. And then she did the session quickly. And this student, she said that she was super calm, she had no problems. At the end of the session, she left feeling super anxious. Her heart was pounding in her chest. And she realized how the healer passed her energy, her stress to her. The healer have such an important role. You should never use the bowls. Especially, it's the same thing when you're doing yoga and at the end of Shavasana, you don't want to touch your student if you're not really feeling it. The pressing the shoulders or pressing your thumb in between the third eye, because you are a channel of the universe of the universal energy through the bowls as well. However you play them is the intention that you put into them. And that's the most important thing. You let just channel the energy and help your student or your patient to just get into that zone. So your aura will make the difference. I guess if anything, now that you have a little bit more understanding of how to use the balls and how your intention is important, the waves are going to just be more powerful. But I don't think you need formal training unless you want more balls. Then it gets more complicated. And then maybe yes, go and do a course.
Thank you. I really love the combination of the Nidra and the sound healing. That sounds amazing. And I do live close enough to you that I can come to a class. So, yes, I'm going to keep an eye out. When I place a bowl on, like, sometimes I know with Marcin, he's a friend of mine that comes to my yin class, or now it's not my class, it's his class. But I used to place the bowl on his chest and like practice like donging it. Same with my partner. Did you say is it much more powerful if the bowl is actually touching that area, like that chakra area?
Yeah, in fact, if you do beginner, if someone comes for a sound healing session with me, if it's the first time ever, I don't place the balls on them the first time. I wait for the second session. And then on the back is even stronger, third or fourth session, because you get directly the vibrations through the bones. And especially if you have maybe a patient that had some trauma or it gets to them a lot. Short answer, yes, is way more.
Definitely get consent for those sorts of things. Thank you so much for today. That was so interesting and informative. Bye,
Yeah, thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.